Hello, I'm Winston-Salem City Council Member Regina Hall, and you are tuned in to Hall Pass, where information on city programs, events, services are passed along to me, I pass along to you, and you pass along to community. We are excited to have our first guest, Director William Royston, who is the Director of Winston-Salem Recreation and Parks Department. Mr. Royston, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to make sure that I brought you on to talk about something that has been really, really exciting in community, apparently to a lot of our citizens, and that is pickleball. So when I served with the Recreation and Parks Department many years ago, the hot thing was bocce. So bocce was like the big thing, and everybody wanted a bocce court somewhere in their community. And now it's pickleball. And pickleball is like passing through all generations, and folks are really excited about it. What I don't think that I really recognized and thought about was how much contention there can also be with pickleball. And I noticed that when I received several emails, probably over the past month or so, maybe month and a half, from various citizens about concerns they had with pickleballs, particularly the hours of operation, the times that they could access the courts. Folks wanted to know how they could get involved with organized pickleball groups, etc. And this was a big thing. It also was a big thing with residents who stay nearby, who were concerned with folks playing pickleball at what they thought were odd times of the night, and hearing all of the excitement and experiencing the lights of all of the pickleball courts. And so I thought that it would just be fitting to have the Director of Recreation and Parks to come on and talk about pickleball. And I have decided to title this episode, "What the Pickleball?" Because that is exactly what I said the first time that I looked at my email, and I had about 12 different emails that were all titled pickleball concerns, pickleball concerns, pickleball concerns. So tell us a little bit, one, about how many pickleball courts we even have in the city right now, where they're at.
So approximately 4 years ago, I don't think we had any pickleball courts. But since that time, we've added 42 pickleball courts to our park system.
No way.
Yes. 42 pickleball courts. We have 2 at Crystal Towers. We have 10 at Little Creek, 6 at Oak Summit, 8 pickleball courts at Old Town, 10 at Sedge Garden, and 6 at Schaffner. And they stay heavily used.
They do stay heavily used. I mean, weekends, weekdays, weeknights, they definitely are heavily utilized. So I appreciate you pointing all of those out. Tell us about how pickleball courts are reserved. Or do you have to be in a league, or is it first come, first serve? How do we normally do that?
Typically, if there was a group that wanted to reserve the course, there's a process to follow. They would contact our department. The course would get reserved. All of our facilities are first come, first serve. However, if someone does have a reservation, that reservation will trump first come, first serve. And so to ensure that you're guaranteed use of the courts, the best route that I would suggest is to reserve the courts. Once the courts are reserved, you'll get a time slot, whether it's 2 hours, 4 hours, however long that you need. And then if you need to schedule have multiple appointments and multiple schedules with different groups, we can handle all of that. Our staff can make those reservations for you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because apparently there have also been some concerns with folks utilizing the courts that maybe didn't have reservations, or maybe their games ran a little longer than what they anticipated. And that could possibly be the case. Well, of course, we want folks to exercise some grace, but understanding that folks that have true reservations do take precedence over folks that do not. But also noting that they are first come, first serve. So you can, but if there is a reservation, then folks need to have confirmation of their reservation on hand so that they can present. Tell us about tournaments. Are there pickleball tournaments that people can go and look at? Like, is it serious where pickleball has actual tournaments?
Yes, there have been several tournaments. There are several groups that participate in tournaments. We've actually had conversations with Kernersville about hosting a joint tournament with them.
Oh, wow.
The best way to find out information on tournament schedules, dates, times, and locations is to visit our website. All of that information is on there. If anyone wanted additional information or some very specific information about particular tournaments, they can reach out to our staff and they can answer those questions as well.
Okay. That's very good to know. And I'll make sure that I also pass that information along. Let me ask something about once folks actually are properly reserved to utilize the courts, okay, because that's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how long they can be on the court, particularly if this is someone who's deciding to play after working hours. And when I'm saying working hours in this case, maybe after a 5:30, understanding that lights do, look a little different after a certain time. I know we're in daylight saving time now, but how does the time for playing pickleball and the new park ordinance that we have for Sunset, how does that play into how long folks are able to play on the pickleball courts?
So our park hours they were updated to reflect that our parks are open from sunrise to sunset.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some room for interpretation there, and we do have some pickleball courts that have lights. However, people have to be mindful that there are residents and communities that live adjacent to our parks in a lot of instances, and that we don't want to become a nuisance or disturbance to them. And so our lights will not be able to be activated, or they will begin to turn off at 9 p.m. And at that time, the play usually ends. Now, there's still some daylight, but that is around the time where our parks begin to shut down. Or our lights begin to turn off so that the courts can be cleared. So we've had instances where we've had reports of people coming in and start playing pickleball literally at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, because they're practicing for tournaments, and our participants take it very, very serious. But in order to be mindful of the people who live adjacent to our parks, we do adjust the hours so that the lights don't stay on past 9 o'clock. And if they're overcast, and it gets a little cloudy and there may not be as much daylight outside, the lights can be used in for supplemental light. But it has impacted not just pickleball, but just how people use our parks in general. There's some growing pains there, but we're working with the communities and working with different groups to make sure that everyone's following the rules.
Well, I appreciate that, because I did receive an email about curtains being hung on some of the fences near pickleball. I would imagine that maybe that had to do with adjusting what the lighting is, or maybe timing around the pickleball courts. Could you explain why maybe someone would decide to hang curtains on the pickleball court fixtures? And is that something that we would encourage folks to do?
So we actually received a report, council member, where someone affixed a curtain, which pretty much to us amounted as a shower curtain onto the fencing fabric at some pickleball locations. And I think it was done in an attempt to control the amount of wind that was passing through the courts, which could affect how the ball carries, or what happens when the ball after they hit it. So realizing it's not a good thing to do. We don't encourage that. We don't support it. The ones that were placed up weren't up to commercial standards. But we did meet with the pickleball community and saw that there was a need. And we do have some days where we have a lot more wind than others. And the wind screens can be a benefit. And so we've worked with different groups to purchase and install wind screens so that they serve in the purpose in which they were intended. They hold up through the weather and whether it's in the different seasons that we have, and they don't tear up and become a visual nuisance for us. So we've worked with groups to purchase those, and we're actually working with a group right now out at Old Town to do that. It's not something we can do at every location, but there's a large group that does go out there. So we're working with that, but we don't encourage people to modify anything on our courts, whether it's the gate latches, modifying lights, timers, installing things that without our permission onto not just pickleball courts, tennis courts, or anything else in our parks without written permission from our department.
Well, we heard it first from you, and I certainly appreciate that. And while we appreciate all of the passion that folks do have for recreation, we definitely want to make sure that they do not tamper with any of the fixtures that are at the courts. Of course, if there are any needs that folks have, we encourage them to contact our Recreation and Parks Department. We encourage them to go to the website. We encourage them to get involved with a tournament, a league, or just pop by any of the courts that you mentioned earlier to be able to take part in pickleball and see what the excitement is about. Director Royston, we certainly appreciate you being here with us and being our very first guest on Hall Pass. We certainly thank you for your time, and certainly thank all of our listeners for tuning in to the first episode of What the Pickleball, and encourage you all to keep an ear open to when our next podcast is coming. It will be coming soon, where all of your favorite podcasts are streamed. Again, this is Hall Pass with City Council Member Regina Hall. I am Regina Hall, where information is passed along to me, I pass along to you, and you pass along to community.